speaker this morning. Michael Walden, PhD, is a William Neal Reynolds Distinguished Professor Emeritus at North Carolina State University and president of Walden Economic Consulting, LLC. During his 43 years on the faculty of NC State, Walden became recognized as an expert on the state economy and public policy. He's the author of 15 books and over 330 articles and reports, and he has made 3,200 personal appearances. Walden is also a frequent contributor to the national and state media and has appeared on all the major national news outlets. He continues to write a bi-weekly newspaper column distributed throughout North Carolina. Walden has served on several public committees and commissions, including the Future of Wake County and the NC First Transportation Commission. He has won numerous awards, including 2 Champion Tuck Awards for Excellence in Broadcasting, the UNC Board of Governors Award for Excellence in Public Service, the Holiday Medal for Excellence from North Carolina State University, and the Order of the Long Leaf Pine. His latest books are the 60-Minute Investment Guide and Tax Turmoil, a die-thinner economic thriller. He is currently working on a book about the future North Carolina economy for the UNC Press. Walden is a member of the North Carolina Economic Development Association, and he resides in Raleigh with his wife, Mary. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Michael Walden.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. I've done this presentation, or actually spoke to this group many times, okay? And always enjoy coming to Chatham County. In fact, Mary has a relative, or actually a couple, who own the oldest home in Chatham County. They're on Small Street. I think it's from the 1700s. And they're both retired, but their retirement activity is restoring old homes. So if you're ever down on Small Street, make a right. I think they're the second house on the right. You can't miss them. My job is to give you the details of the economy, especially as it relates to Chatham County. But before I do that, I want to show you that economists do have a sense of humor. At least this one. So I have one. I'll pull out one of my few jokes that I can say. And it actually ties in with what I did. I retired in 2021 after 43 years at NC State. And one of the things I've tried to do in my retirement is do those things I like doing, not doing those things I didn't like doing, like faculty meetings. Gosh, never get in a room with faculty. Never, decisions are never made. Anyway, so my story concerns another faculty member who retired. And one of his goals was to learn how to skydive. So he takes lessons. He takes some practice jumps where he's strapped to a professional skydiver. And the day comes to where he's going to take his first solo jump. His family's excited. They're at the jump site. They're going to film it, et cetera, et cetera. So he jumps, lands safely, but he's far off course, wind currents or something. He lands in a field of corn. So he's not injured, but he looks around, he's sort of a little concerned, he doesn't know where he is, until he sees a speck on the horizon. And the speck keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger as it comes toward him, and it's an individual, looks like a farmer. And so the skydiver says to the farmer, well, where am I? And the farmer responds, well, you're in my cornfield. And the skydiver's a little annoyed at this point, so he's not having a good day. So he said, with that kind of answer, I bet you're an economist. And the farmer says, well, I guess you could say I'm a part-time economist. I had to take courses at NC State in agricultural economics. It's very important to know about pricing, markets, etc. How did you know I was an economist? And the skydiver says, because you told me something that was absolutely true, but of no use to me whatsoever. So I always try to exceed that. And let's see where I am on my slides. So I got some slides. So first thing I want to point out to you, and this is not news to you, if you look at these numbers, every metric you look at, GDP is gross domestic product. There was some news on that yesterday that I'll talk about. Chatham County, you can see, exceeded, this is from 2019 to 23, far exceeded the GDP growth in North Carolina as well as in the U.S. Jobs, again, same thing. Weekly earnings, also the same thing. The only metric that maybe you would rather not see is increase in cost of living. Now, we don't have data specifically for Chatham County, so what I'm using here is the metro that you're in, which is the Chapel Hill, Durham metro. We do have inflation numbers for that. And you may be in this range or not, but anyway, I'll give you the number. You can see that the cost of living from 2019 to 2023 in the Durham Chapel Hill metro area, when it was 24% over this time span, versus 24% in North Carolina, but 20% in the nation. So I'll leave that as what it is. But I do think that's what you find in fast-growing areas, which I'm going to give you some more numbers for the future. That becomes an issue. Land prices tend to go up, other things go up, so that's a challenge, I think, for fast-growing areas. Okay, what you probably want to hear from me is not the stuff about the local economy, because you know about the local economy. Antonio gave you a fabulous presentation on what's going on economically. So I want to talk about two things at the national level, because wherever we are in the nation, we're affected by national trends and national policy decisions. Obviously, the big question today is tariffs. We didn't hear anything about tariffs prior to the new administration. They, I think, are being used by the administration to achieve two goals, and the president has stated this, and I don't get into politics, so you can take this or leave it. But I think what the Trump administration is trying to achieve with tariffs is, number one, to allure American companies and investments that are maybe in foreign countries back to the U.S., wants to make it more expensive for American companies to do business, to have facilities in foreign countries. And number two, he perceives, or his administration perceives, that there has been an unfairness in international trade ever since World War II. And actually, I think the administration has a point there. If you look at the history of international trade after World War II, what happened? Pretty much the rest of the world was devastated. We the U.S., was still prosperous, pretty much untouched by the war. And so an international trade situation was set up where it made trade between, or sales of domestically made products in foreign countries easier to sell in the U.S. than the reverse, for American products to be sold in foreign countries. And the way you do that is with tariffs. So if you look at where we have been over the last, 70 years with tariffs, in general, U.S. tariffs have been much lower than foreign tariffs. And the administration thinks, hey, we're 70 years past World War II, we don't need that, so let's try to change it. And so I think what the president is trying to do is to convince foreign countries to lower their tariffs, to get some parity between tariffs. As an economist, I would love, this is my personal opinion, I'd love to see zero tariffs. Why? I mean, economists by nature, we love trade. We love trade between people, we love trade between countries. So tariffs just get in the way. And in fact, let me just tell you real quickly, what is a tariff? A tariff occurs, let's say we have a 25% tariff. Let's just illustrate this with Chinese toys, Chinese manufactured toys. Let's say I have a toy company here in the U.S. where I retail toys. I don't make them, but I retail them. So I buy my toys from China. So I have $1,000 worth of toys coming in to imported into my company. And let's say there's a 25% tariff. That means that there's a 25% charge, in this case $250, added to the $1,000 I have to pay. Now the question is, who pays that tariff? I have found as I've gone around the state and talked about this in my typical talks, a lot of people think the Chinese exporter pays the tariff. No, it's the importer. So Walden Toys pays the tariff. It's not the Chinese exporter. Now I may try to work with my Chinese exporter and say, hey, work with me on this, cut your costs a little bit. And sometimes that happens, but more likely, studies have shown, that what I'm going to do is I'm going to absorb those costs, that tariff cost, by either trying to have more efficiencies in my production, which means probably laying off some people, or passing that tariff price on to my consumers. That's why you're hearing so much concern about inflation being caused by tariffs, because that typically has occurred in the past. So that is the concern. Now, there's no question, the bullet point, the second to last bullet point, there's no question in the minds of economists that if we keep these tariffs going, and I think there's another round that is supposed to come soon. If we keep these tariffs going, that is going to raise costs. That's likely going to slow the economy. That was the big concern that we saw yesterday when the GDP number, that's our go-to number for the health of the economy in terms of growth, came out. It was minus 0.3%, the first time GDP went down since early 2022. Actually, it's not as bad as you look, because the reason it went down is because companies imported more than they typically do because they're trying to beat the tariffs. And in the metrics that define the GDP, imports are counted as a negative because it's viewed as production that could have happened here that's happening somewhere else. So if you go into the bowels, if you will, of the GDP report yesterday, it's not as bad as you think, but it could get bad. If the high tariffs continue or additional tariffs continue, it could get bad. So what most economists are hoping, and I think probably the administration hopes, and I think we all hope, is that the administration can cut deals, and they've already talked about that, where the foreign countries lower their tariffs, we lower our tariffs, and we get back to trade to normal. So that's my outlook on tariffs. It could be devastating for the economy if they're kept high. On the other hand, if we get tariffs close to zero around the world, that could be a big boost for not only our country, but for foreign countries. The other entity that you have to look at always is the Federal Reserve. Those of you who are in banking, and I know we have a lot of banking folks here, know the Federal Reserve well. Real quick, Federal Reserve is the central bank of the U.S. Among their tasks, their duties are they do some administrative work with banks, making sure everything is on the up and up. But in terms of policy, the Congress has given the Federal Reserve two goals: keep inflation low and keep unemployment low. That's called the dual mandate. That's tough to do, but that's the goal, that's the policy mandate the Federal Reserve has. And how do they do that? Well, they have two levers they can use. One, they're the ones that control the money supply, how many dollars are flowing into the economy. So if they're worried that unemployment is too high, they'll pump more dollars in to generate spending. If they think inflation is too high, they'll pull dollars out. The other lever they have is they have influence, not direct control on interest rates. They control a couple key interest rates. Other interest rates tend to follow. And if the Federal Reserve, for example, is worried the economy is going to collapse or in a recession like they did during COVID, they lower interest rates. In fact, during COVID, they lowered their key rate down to 0%. That's why home mortgages were, I think 30-year fixed mortgages got down to under 3%, unheard of. That's why. On the other hand, if they're worried that inflation is too high, which they then got into worrying about in 2022 and 2023, they raise interest rates, which they did, because they want to slow the economy down. The key there is not to slow it down so much it goes into recession, and so far the Federal Reserve has avoided that. The Federal Reserve right now, I think, is trying to figure out where, like all of us are trying to figure out where the economy is going. If you look at the economy, and don't worry about the GDP report yesterday, it actually is in pretty good shape. We're still getting job growth. We're still getting business investment. The inflation rate has not moderated yet to the 2% level. And incidentally, on inflation, a lot of people, when I give talks, they raise their hand and say, when are prices going to go back to 2019 levels? My answer is never. Never. Some will, but broadly no. What the Federal Reserve's goal is to have the inflation rate, the rate at which prices rise over time, which always happens. You only find deflation in bad economic times. They want that to maybe hover around 2%. They're not quite there yet, but that's their goal. The reason is that 2% is a level that most households can accommodate into their budgets when they get annual pay raises. So we're not going to go back to 2019 levels, but the Federal Reserve is not yet at their target goal of 2%. So my guess right now, they're going to meet, what is today? Thursday? Next week. Tuesday and Wednesday, they're going to meet. Widely thought that they're going to keep their interest rates stable, not going to raise it or lower it. Now, the last bullet point I have here, the president he's actually calmed down a little bit, but the president for a while was saying he doesn't like Federal Reserve's policy, they're not cutting interest rates, he's going to fire the head of the Federal Reserve, Jay Powell. Can't do it. He can't do it. And he finally apparently realized that, or people told him he can't do that, because I guess last week sometime he said, no, I'm not contemplating firing Jay Powell. Federal Reserve is an independent agent. It's not like the Department of Defense, Department of Agriculture, where the president can fire the heads of those departments. Federal Reserve is independent, so Jay Powell would have to go out and commit a bank robbery in order to get fired, and I don't think he's going to do that. So I know this went quickly, but those are the two things I think to watch right now. What's going to happen? What's happening with tariffs? Do we get deals? If we start to get deals, look for the stock market to really start to boom, and then watch the Federal Reserve. Okay, last substantive slide. Long run outlook for Chatham County, positive. These are population growth numbers. This is just one way to look at the long run outlook. These are population forecasts from our state demographer. We actually have a state demographer. Excellent job. And these are his forecasts for population from between 2020 and 2060. That's as far out as he goes. He's going to look at the percentage increases. He's looking at the U.S. Well, actually, this is from the Census Bureau, 27% increase. North Carolina, 47% increase. But look at Chatham County, 73% increase forecast. That may not happen. May be more or maybe less, but clearly this area, this Chatham County, is certainly on a roll. And again, to what Antonio said, not surprising. Look at your location. You've got the triad on one side, you've got the triangle on the other side, right now you've got lower costs, you've got 64, all kind of development happening on 64, you can get to the airport easily. Why wouldn't you want to locate in Chatham County? Which leads me to my final slide, that looking at the future Chatham County as a place to live, as well as the economy, you have opportunities here. Antonio went over all the good numbers about who's locating here, and that's going to continue in my view. But you also have challenges, because generally with fast growth comes higher prices, and we already saw that in the inflation numbers I gave you. So I think and the other challenge there, I was talking to your great mayor here from Goldson. The other challenge is to have growth occur in a way that doesn't take away the advantages that people saw here in the first place. And those are challenges, but I am very, very optimistic that the bright people here, the people here who are so committed to Chatham County will do that. Thank you very much.